你好，包女士。您可以简单介绍一下这次的活动。
我想哈，这次是我们呢，就是云联美国公司对于我们整个将对市场推出的这一套客户忠诚度的这个营销平台，那么将对美国的中小型的一些企业的整个推动，那么企业这个运用这个商业科技，然后帮助企业这个做好这个客户的这种的客户管理，提升自己的一些营销就是销售，然后带来的一种的这样的一个新的一种模式。那么我们的整个营销这个计划的话，它是通过一个联盟式的平台式的这种的经营方式，能够来带动更多的商家，能够让他们的消费者能够更好的增加他和这个客户、消费者跟商家的这种粘性，来提升他们的销售业绩。
我觉得这个计划真的非常好。那您觉得对于中国的消费者有什么样的意义呢？
那应该这么说，在现在互联网科技时代，实际上呢，商品的流通它应该是向全世界的。那么，透过我们的跨境电商平台，我们的网络商城，实际上呢，对于美国的商家，它也能够拓展到世界各地的消费者。那么，对于我们中国的消费者的话，它也能够透过我们的这个网上商城，进入到美国的这个商家来购买他们的喜爱的产品。那我想，商品是应该提供给世界各地的消费者的。
对，谢谢您。
不客气。
Thank you very much for coming today. This is a very, very successful event. We unveiled for the first time ever Wonder Rewards, which is the name of our rewards program, which is going to be the biggest rewards program in America. We're going to be able to do some amazing things with it. Chinese consumers are going to be able to buy products here in the U.S. at hundreds of retailers, and then many, many different retail brands, and have those products shipped to their door in China. And the best part is they'll be able to earn Wonder Rewards points when they buy those products. Isn't that awesome?
Thank you.
Can you say something about this event?
Yes, this is the 2018 Biz Tech Symposium. We at Cloud Union are putting this together today to bring business leaders, community leaders, and other people who are concerned with the digital marketplace and the online marketplace. We're bringing people here, and we have some very dynamic speakers in order to get the word out about how you can use data-driven analytics, information that is readily available to us in regards to how consumers buy things in stores and online, and put that together and create marketing and ad campaigns and make it a more seamless consumer experience for people out there in their everyday lives. It doesn't have to be anything, any specific items. We are trying to address a broad range of the consumer marketplace, and again, make it easier for individuals to have a good experience online.
Thank you. I think it's very meaningful for the customers between U.S. and China, right?
Yes, and also what we're doing is we're giving the information in these programs to the retailers, because the retailers then will be able to make their marketing and advertisement campaigns to the consumer's needs, and whether it's here or international, that's where our big online market is. When we have people cross borders making purchases online, that's what we want to address, and we want to again make that experience better for everybody, to make to make it a more enjoyable experience.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure to meet you here. So can I have a very brief interview with you? Thank you. So could you talk about something about this event to our audience?
I'm sorry, about what? About this event?
Yeah.
So I'm up here to largely talk about how the government uses big data, but also the responsibility then, once you've acquired so much information, to protect it. To not allow it to fall into hands that would use it for any purpose other than the purpose for which you originally collected it. And that's hard. There are a lot of dangers out there, but there are also an awful lot of opportunities to make it harder to do, to make yourself what we would call a tougher target. So that was my message.
Yeah. And what do you think are the next generation of the cyber threats that we will face in the future?
So I talked about threats from nation states, from criminal gangs, and from what I call hacktivists. One of the things we're seeing is that it's getting hard to distinguish between and among those groups. They seem to be blending and maybe even offering or selling their services to one another, which I think makes it a little more difficult to understand the enemy, to understand who may be threatening us.
And I know you recently published your new book, The Assault on Intelligence. So could you tell us a little about it?
Fundamentally, it's about political culture in America and the role of truth in making our decisions. And I actually spend a lot of the book trying to issue some warnings that at many levels we don't seem to be as committed to the truth as we have been or should be.
Thank you so
Okay,
much for
thank
today.
you. Thank you.
Paid and weren't doing anything.
Absolutely.
No one was measuring it, and that's what can happen in a large institution.
Right.
When,
They
when
didn't
no
have
one's monitoring it.
Audit and integrity management that we have in
Right.
today's society, they didn't have back then.
So
right?
I was
They certainly didn't have that.
expecting that when we did this, there'd be a lot of pushback from companies that had contracts for 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
and now why is it being taken away?
Yes.
There was almost none.
Right.
Because
No,
some of
that's
them just, it was almost
But that's
like when
progress,
you're
Governor.
living in a
That's-
house and you're not paying rent,
Yeah.
then they finally throw you out and say, oh, they finally caught up
They
with
finally
me.
caught up with me, right? Exactly, exactly. Yeah, so that's wonderful. But that's how technology develops. That's how personal interactions in business develop. And
Yeah. Well, it was wonderful to be invited here, and now that I've met the founder and the president and all the great people who work here, and I can see just in the way that they conduct themselves and the timeliness of the event. You know, you go to events, they say they're going to start at 11. Well, by the time they start, you're not sure whether they meant 11 a.m. or 11 p.m. And so I think that this is why they have hatched this incredible idea, a whole new idea of what to do with points that you would get for sales, these sort of thank you points that the credit card companies and banks and other services have given out. But this is a new application of it, one that particularly low-income people, I think, would find particularly useful for them. I think that that's a kind of a stunning discovery, and yet at the same time, it's so simple, it makes people like myself wonder why we didn't think of it. So congratulations to everybody that's in the cloud and is working under the cloud, and best wishes.
I'm going to start talking, but I'd love for you guys to have something to look at other than my face.
Good? You ready to get started? Yes. Are you ready for your first speaker? Yes. Our first speaker today, I hope you're excited, is the former governor of New York, Mr. David Patterson. He's most known for reducing New York's deficit by nearly $40 billion and becoming the first governor to sign legislation attaching criminal penalties to predatory lending during the worst foreclosure crisis in American history. In addition to that, he introduced landmark civil rights legislation that eventually ended legal discrimination against same-sex couples, and he also had legislation that increased the welfare allowance for the neediest New Yorkers for the first time in 20 years. Currently, Mr. Patterson is Director of Investments at Stifel, Nicolaus & Company, and he's going to speak to you today about the important role that small businesses play in New York's economy. Please put your hands together and welcome Mr. David Patterson.
That fail time and time again, and as Dr. Jonas Salk once said, that the definition of insanity is doing something time and time again and failing and continuing to try. And what I think we're embarking on here today, from all I've heard about your marketing plans, your international opportunities and relationships that made it unique that you have that is that this is the beginning of a tremendous opportunity, and I wish you all well. Thank you all for inviting me, and I hope this is a great conference.
And now let's go then to this next generation, which is the Generation Z. And what we know about Generation Z is that the oldest is now 23 years old. And you know, this definitely is a group that lives in the cloud. Okay, and they live in the cloud, and not just because they are this is the group of individuals that's really, or the generation I should say, that's really transforming, okay, that simplify user experience, because they're taking all of these multi-apps that are created here and trying to find, as they interact with a company or a business, trying to really find ways to best utilize it in a one-stop shop and as quickly as possible for them. They want it in a way that they could really get that information and share information also very quickly. And because of that, there's a new term also that has been created with this group, and they're called the curators. The curators of content.
So having technology that facilitates trust can have a big impact on the community. So it's interesting, I talked a little bit about my personal journey through the internet and blockchain, but it's interesting, when the internet browser first came out, which some of you remember, it was a static web page, right? And the game was to try to drive as much traffic as you could to that page, and everybody wanted to be on that page. It wasn't very scalable, right? Because unfortunately, these other pages didn't get that much traffic. And they would buy $70 CPMs from Yahoo, sell theirs for like $30 CPMs. I mean, they couldn't even make money on it. So those early models really didn't make sense. High school, and one girl said, did they have computers back then? And I'm like, okay, they didn't have smartphones, but we had computers back then. And what's kind of interesting is that I went on to head up technology at Hearst and Disney. And in the early days, I remember that even the entertainment companies didn't really take the disruption that seriously. They thought, who's going to be watching television on small screens, and who's going to be entertaining themselves in small devices, right? From there, I went to head up e-commerce at Oracle, and I remember people saying, nobody's going to shop online. We want that, we want that retail experience. How many people of you shop online today? Yes, all of you, right? So, and then from there, I went on to do some AI at MIT Harvard spinoff. I was CEO of that, went on to do some work for Motorola, and then went into the fintech space, where once again, I visited the MIT Media Lab and got introduced to Bitcoin and blockchain and realized, wow, this is going to be very disruptive. And at the time, I was working in the fintech space, and I remember my coworkers saying, what the hell is she talking about? That like blockchain stuff, would you please be quiet? With a figure of 75% of trust. But then if you look at the data aspect, there's not as much trust in consumer data because people are nervous about that. But it's interesting, I work a lot in the fintech space. Hyatt's ledger is in the insurtech space. And that's one of the segments in which there isn't as much trust. As a matter of fact, if you actually look at the figures of the informed public, over the course of the last year, trust has gone down by 23% in the United States. That's a big deal, right? Facebook did a study in 2016, and the millennials that Betsy talked about have almost no trust in having their finances managed, which means that if you start looking at the amount of money that's going into hedge funds, it's decreasing, and there's more money going into ETFs. Once again, changing business models. This lack of trust has actually ignited one of the biggest innovations, as I just talked about, which is blockchain. Bitcoin is the grandfather of all of that, and then 2 years later, the word Bitcoin and blockchain has evolved. And then you start having things like smart contracts and Hyperledger, which is workflows, but it's actually used for fundraising as well. It's very, very disruptive. Have most of you heard of blockchain? So trust, which is interesting, because the use of trust, which is fueling this blockchain phenomenon.
We generally do. And the private sector
has stepped in over Chardonnay in the cocktail party. But I want to talk to you about defense. Right? Now, I actually decided not to do any of this with slides. Right? So we just have a conversation. But if I had one slide, it'd be now. Since I don't have a slide, look up here, I'm going to do hand puppets for you. All right? We're going to talk about risk, R, is equal to the threat times your vulnerability to the threat times the consequence of a successful attack. As you well know, you just can't put it inside the old processes and make it work. You can't make the old processes strong enough to deal with the volume that big data actually is. And so as we've embraced big data, just like every other aspect of American life, right, we've had to change how we do business. We've had to change how we're organized. We've had to change our structures, our tactics, our techniques, our procedures, our training programs, just like all of you have. I mean, I'm just thinking of examples off the top of my head. I mean, Uber's not just another cab company, okay? Uber is a different kind of enterprise based on the possibilities of manipulating data in a rapid sort of way. And you just can't make it work by computerizing yellow cab. It requires something different. So let me tell you a story.
Okay, and remember what I said, they're only 23 years old. Okay? For a number of reasons, they have all that purchasing power, and then the millennial generation, or the Generation Y, that's close to $200 billion. And it's not to say that as a small business, depending on what your product or service is, if you just want to focus on this one generation or two generations, you really need a multi-pronged strategy that's really going to address the needs, right, of as many generations as can really help serve the growth of your particular business. So, and at the end of the day, you know, what does this really mean? What does all of this really mean for you as a small business? You know, and as I look at this and as I look at what iCloud is really offering, it's really about, once again, how do you really leverage a partnership like iCloud to be able to have that simplified user experience and reward with loyalty. And you know, this definitely is a group that lives in the cloud. Okay, and they live in the cloud, and not just because they are this is the group of individuals that's really, or the generation I should say, that's really transforming, okay, that simplified user experience, because they're taking all of these multi-apps that are created here and trying to find, as they interact with a company or a business, trying to really find ways to best utilize it in a one-stop shop and as quickly as possible for them. They want it in a way that they could really get that information, share information also very quickly. And because of that, there's a new term also that has been created with this group, and they're called the curators. The curators of content. Okay, and when you think about that term curator, there was a time until maybe just a year ago or 2 years ago, you know, in my memory bank, that it was really a place or a term that we would use most for the arts, right, in the museum. And it was an individual, right, that would help to sort of like streamline the information about a particular piece of artwork. And that's what this group is doing. As they place, as this Generation Z places information out on the internet.